Breaking news out of Chicago. The spotlight is firmly on Bears offensive coordinator Ben Johnson after a crushing Monday Night Football loss to the Minnesota Vikings. But this time, instead of dodging questions or shifting blame, Johnson stunned reporters with his honesty, his calm tone, and a full dose of accountability. What he said next may change the way fans look at him and the team moving forward. Ben Johnson's Tuesday press conference felt completely different from the man we saw on Monday night. After the loss, he looked drained, frustrated, and almost desperate to get back to the film room. But less than 24 hours later, Johnson appeared calm, collected, and ready to face the criticism head-on. And here's where things get interesting: he didn't wait for questions. Instead, he opened by putting the blame squarely on himself. Johnson admitted, "I didn't think I called a particularly great game. I could have adjusted better to the lack of pressure that Brian Flores and the Vikings defense showed us. I need to be better." That level of honesty is rare, especially so soon after a loss. It's not often you see a coach openly call himself out in front of the media, but Johnson wanted fans and his players to know one thing: he's owning this. Backhand index pointing right. But before we dive into the latest details, make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss breaking NFL updates just like this one. Now, let's move on to the new news. Backhand index pointing left. Johnson's words weren't just about X's and O's. They were about leadership. He showed accountability, something fans have been begging for from this coaching staff. While he admitted mistakes in handling the Vikings' defensive looks, he also displayed a willingness to grow, adapt, and learn quickly. Compared to his post-game frustration, Tuesday felt like a reset. Johnson looked refreshed, more focused, and determined to turn the page. For a Bears team still searching for consistency, that type of leadership might be exactly what they need. Caleb Williams may have had the second longest time to throw in the NFL this past weekend, an average of 3.39 seconds, but numbers alone don't tell the whole story. Some of that came from smart play design, but what stood out was the inconsistency. Too many overthrows, too many missed opportunities, and a running game that stalled at critical moments. Add in receivers struggling to create separation, and suddenly the offense was forced to grind rather than glide. Now, here's the important part: Ben Johnson can't be blamed for everything. He called a game that, in many moments, worked. In fact, the Bears' offense looked sharper than it has in months, which shows the progress he's demanding of himself and his unit. Johnson openly admitted that Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores took a different approach than usual. Instead of constant blitz packages, Flores leaned heavily on a four-man rush. That adjustment spoke volumes about how confident the Vikings were in their defensive front. Early on, Chicago found success. The first drive ended in a touchdown, and momentum was building. But then came the setbacks, penalties, stalled runs, and far too many second-and-long situations that turned into near-impossible third downs. Against a defense as disciplined as Minnesota's, that's a recipe for frustration. It's also worth remembering who Johnson was facing. Brian Flores commands one of the league's top 5 defenses, a group that doesn't repeat looks and thrives on keeping offenses off balance. Despite the challenge, Johnson entered the game with a 4-1 record as a play caller against Flores and the Vikings, and even after the loss, his Bears offense still came close to putting up 400 total yards. That's no small feat. The truth is, while the mistakes were obvious, there were also flashes of what this offense could become. For a fan base desperate to see improvement, those moments matter just as much as the final score. No matter how frustrated fans felt after the loss, one thing is undeniable: the Bears' offense was far more entertaining than it was a year ago. At times, it even flashed the rhythm and explosiveness of last season, though it didn't sustain for the entire game. Still, there were positives to take away. Ben Johnson didn't shy away from owning his mistakes. One moment stood out: his failed second-half challenge. Johnson admitted he thought he saw something on the field, trusted his instincts, and went for it. But later, he called it what it was: a rookie mistake. He admitted he needs to lean more on the coaches up in the booth, trust the information coming from his staff, and not let the adrenaline of the moment push him into decisions that cost the team valuable timeouts. That honesty matters. Johnson is still adjusting to the role of head coach. During training camp, he's had the headset, but managing real in-game chaos is different. He now has to learn how to balance trusting his gut with trusting the people around him, because this isn't just about his decisions alone. It's about the collective effort of an entire staff feeding him information, not just him funneling it back to others. And despite the loss, the numbers tell a different story. Chicago finished with 318 yards of total offense, statistically outgaining the Vikings. A few sacks and costly penalties skewed the final picture, but on paper, Johnson's unit actually produced better than Minnesota's. The problem? Missed opportunities, lack of execution in key moments, and discipline slipping at the worst times. Johnson knows it, too. He admitted things must tighten up, mistakes have to be corrected, and penalties can't keep derailing drives. The foundation is there, now it's about proving this team can finish. One decision in particular could have completely changed the outcome, the use of that critical timeout. Ben Johnson admitted it himself, if he had listened more closely to his staff, the Bears might have had the extra time needed to alter the flow of the game. That's the kind of self-reflection you don't always hear from a head coach. He also addressed a key moment on special teams. Johnson revealed he believed the Bears could kick the ball out of the back of the end zone, but when that didn't happen, he knew immediately it was on him. In hindsight, he said the safer play would have been to kick it out of bounds. What stood out most was his refusal to shift blame. He never mentioned Cairo Santos in a negative light, he took the responsibility squarely on himself. That's leadership, plain and simple. It also shows how much faith he has in his defense. Even with a short field, Johnson trusted his players to get a stop. And while the outcome didn't go their way, the mindset behind it speaks volumes about his confidence in the roster. Then came updates on injuries, always a hot topic for fans. Quarterback Kyler Gordon reported tightness during the week, and the staff made the cautious call to sit him. Johnson stressed it wasn't worth the risk of aggravating the hamstring this early in the season. As for DJ Moore, Johnson hadn't received the full medical report yet, but he did share that Moore texted him directly and sounded optimistic. Here's the bigger picture: the Bears played without key contributors, still held a 17-6 lead at one point, and only lost by a field goal. Yes, mistakes were costly, but there are plenty of positives to build on. The season is long, and this team still has opportunities to grow. Let's not forget the bigger context here. The Bears went into that game short-handed, missing two starting defensive backs and running back Roscoe Johnson. Add to that a brand new playbook under Ben Johnson, plus the challenge of facing one of the league's toughest defenses led by Brian Flores, and the task was enormous from the start. And yet, there were positives. Despite the adversity, this offense showed signs of life. The game plan wasn't perfect, but there were flashes where it clicked, where you could see the foundation of something stronger being built. The defense, even while undermanned, kept the Vikings from running away with it. And the best news? Those injured players are progressing and could be back in time for the showdown against Detroit. When you step back, the story isn't just about a loss, it's about resilience. A rookie head coach, a roster missing key pieces, and still the team held its ground against a top-5 defense. That's something the Bears can build on moving forward. The Bears also made a roster move this week, signing defensive back and return specialist Dallas Flowers. The move could hint that the team wants extra depth in the secondary, but also a reliable option in the return game after Devin DuVernay appeared to tweak something earlier in the week. Flowers, a Chicago native, brings both experience and athleticism. Though he entered the league as an undrafted free agent, he carved out 4 seasons in the NFL, most recently with the Indianapolis Colts. During his college career at Pittsburgh State, he was a true dual threat: 17 kick returns for 573 yards, 2 return touchdowns, including a 98-yarder, and strong defensive numbers with 4 interceptions and 10 pass breakups. In the NFL, he's logged nearly 40 tackles, forced a fumble, and shown steady development on defense while still flashing as a returner. Combine that with a 4.43 40-yard dash, explosive jumps, and nearly 11-foot broad jump, and you've got the kind of athletic profile that fits right into what Chicago is building. Right now, Flowers starts on the practice squad, but it wouldn't be surprising to see roster moves in the coming days that open the door for him to make an impact. For a hometown player, suiting up for the Bears is more than just another opportunity, it's a chance to represent the city he grew up in. And for Chicago, it's one more piece added to a puzzle that still feels like it's just beginning to take shape.